The sun was low in the sky when Jack heard a strange sound outside his cabin. It was a deep humming noise, soft but strong, and it came from the trees beyond the clearing. He stood on the porch, holding a mug of warm coffee, and listened carefully. Birds had stopped singing. The forest was too quiet. It was never a good sign. Jack lived alone in a small wooden cabin deep in the woods of Montana. He had chosen this life after leaving the busy city behind. He liked the silence, the fresh air, and the peace. He worked as a wildlife photographer and sent his photos to magazines and websites. He didn't see many people, and that was how he liked it. But tonight felt different. The sound lasted a few more seconds, and then stopped. Jack waited. Then, in the corner of his eye, he saw movement near the trees. Something was out there. He put down his mug and stepped off the porch. He moved slowly, carefully, as he walked toward the edge of the forest. There, lying in the tall grass, was a woman. She looked about 25, with shoulder-length blue hair and pale skin that seemed to glow in the fading light. Her eyes were closed and she wasn't moving. Jack knelt beside her. He touched her wrist. She was alive, but her skin felt cool, not cold, just different. He shook her gently. She opened her eyes. For a moment, they looked silver, then shifted to a soft green. She sat up quickly, looking around. Her gaze landed on Jack, and she looked both confused and calm at the same time. "You're safe," Jack said. "You're near my cabin. You remember what happened?" She looked at him without blinking. "I am Lyra." Jack waited for more, but she said nothing else. "Are you hurt?" "No." She stood up slowly. Her movements were smooth and careful, like she wasn't used to her body or the ground beneath her. Jack led her back to the cabin. She followed without question. Inside, he gave her a blanket and a glass of water. She took both, but didn't drink right away. Instead, she looked around the cabin with wide, curious eyes. She studied the walls, the fireplace, and the photos on the shelf. "You live alone," she said. "Yes, for a few years now." "You chose this." Jack nodded. "How do you know that Lyra didn't answer?" She sipped the water slowly. Jack asked if she had any ID, but she didn't. Her clothes were simple, plain, smooth fabric that didn't look like anything from around here. She had no phone, no bag, no shoes. Her voice was clear, her English perfect, but the way she spoke was odd. Like someone who had learned from books and videos but never lived it. That night, the power flickered twice. Jack checked the fuse box but found nothing wrong. The radio turned on by itself once, playing static. Lyra sat quietly in the chair by the window, watching the trees outside. She didn't seem afraid. Jack tried not to ask too many questions. He didn't want to scare her. But he knew something was strange. People didn't just fall out of the sky in the middle of the woods. He gave her the small guest room. She thanked him and went inside without a word. Jack sat on the couch, thinking. Couldn't stop looking at the strange burn marks on her arms. They weren't like burns from fire. They glowed faintly, just like her skin. The next morning, Lyra was already awake, standing outside on the porch. She was staring at the trees again. Jack joined her. "I'm not from here," she said softly. "I figured," Jack replied. "I didn't come by mistake." Jack looked at her. "And why are you here?" Returned to face him. "Because you live alone. Because you notice things others don't. And because I needed someone to help me stay hidden." Jack didn't know what to say. The air felt heavier now. He realized something had changed. This was not just a strange night. This was the beginning of something much bigger. It had started with a knock from the sky and a woman named Lyra on his doorstep. Jack stood by the window, watching Lyra as she walked slowly around the cabin. She moved with purpose, as if every small thing caught her attention. She touched the wooden beams of the wall, the old bookshelf, and the small radio on the table. She asked questions about everything. What was the purpose of the toaster? Why did the clock tick so loudly? How did the water come from the tap? She was like a child seeing the world for the first time, but there was something different about her. She was too calm, too smart. She remembered every answer, and repeated his words later with perfect detail. Jack made eggs for breakfast. Lyra watched closely. She did not eat much, but said she enjoyed the smell. He found it strange, but he said nothing. Later that morning, Jack went into the forest with his camera. Lyra followed him without asking. Stopped near a group of trees where the grass was burned. It was not like fire damage. The ground was black, and the trees were bent away from the center. Something had hit this place. Lyra stood in silence, looking at the spot. Her face showed no surprise. Jack turned to her. "This is where I found you," he said. She nodded. "I know. You didn't fall from the sky, did you? I came through the air, and my vessel was damaged. It dropped me early." Jack stared at her. "Your vessel?" "Yes, a small transport. Not for long travel, just to move through the sky." "Are you saying you're from another planet?" Lyra looked at him and did not answer right away. "Yes." Jack felt a chill, though the sun was warm on his skin. He didn't know if he should laugh, run, or listen. She looked serious, and she had no reason to lie. "Why here?" he asked. "I was sent here, but not by accident." "You were chosen." Jack was quiet for a moment. "Chosen? Why me? You are alone. You did not share much of your life with others. That makes you less of a risk. You see the world differently. You ask the right questions." Jack didn't know how to respond. He took a few photos of the burned area and then turned back. Lyra followed. That evening, the air was still. Lyra sat on the porch, watching the trees. Jack sat beside her with a notebook in his hands. He had written down the things she said, trying to make sense of it all. "You said you were sent. Who sent you, my people?" "We are called the Aaron. We have watched Earth for many years." Jack looked at her. "Why?" "We study planets with life. We learn before we make contact. Earth is not ready yet, but there are talks. Some believe it is time. Some say no." "And what do you say?" "I say nothing. I observe." Jack could feel the weight in her voice, even if her words were calm. She was hiding something. He felt it. "Do others know you're here?" "Not yet. My signal is lost. That is why I found you. I needed to stay hidden. You were part of the plan." Jack was no longer sure what part of his life was real anymore. This woman, this being, had fallen into his world, and now everything was different. That night, he could not sleep. He kept thinking about the way her eyes changed color. He remembered the way the lights flickered when she walked near them. Something about her energy was not from this earth. He walked into the kitchen for a glass of water and found her standing by the window, looking at the sky. "I miss the stars," she said. Jack stood beside her. "They're still there, just far away. They're closer than you think," she replied. He looked at her, unsure what she meant, but he stayed quiet. The wind picked up outside. The trees moved gently. Inside the cabin, it was quiet again. Jack knew he could not go back to his old life. Not now. Not with someone like Lyra sleeping under his roof. She was not a dream. She was not a trick. She was real. Well, like to repent to what I went wrong to blah blah. I will be sent what I will I run The next few days passed quietly, but Jack could feel the change growing stronger. Lyra stayed close to the cabin. She rarely slept, and often spent long hours outside watching the sky. She spoke little, but when she did, her words stayed with Jack for a long time. One evening, while sitting near the fire, Jack asked, "Why me? You said I was chosen, but why not someone smarter, or someone with more power?" Lyra looked into the fire. "Because you see clearly, you live simply, you understand silence." Jack laughed a little. "It's not much to offer, it is more than most." Her answer was strange but honest. Jack had learned to accept her way of speaking. She never said more than needed. The next morning, Jack noticed something unusual. His camera had picked up lights in the sky the night before. He looked at the photos again and again. There were 3 glowing objects, too bright to be stars and too still to be planes. He showed the pictures to Lyra. She looked at them and said, "They are scouts. Your people." She nodded. "They are searching for me. They will not come close. Not yet." Jack felt uneasy. "Will they take you back?" "Only if I ask. But I have not sent a signal." "Why not?" "Because I am still learning. My mission is not done." Jack walked to the porch and stared into the woods. He could feel the pressure of something bigger than he understood. He had lived a quiet life for years. Now he was part of something that stretched far beyond Earth. Later that day, Lyra sat at the table with a small device she had built from parts of her damaged transport. It had lights, buttons, and a soft humming sound. Jack watched her work. "What is that?" he asked. "A link to my people. I can speak to them through it. But only once." Jack sat down. "And what will you tell them?" Lyra looked at him. "I do not know yet." That night, the wind grew strong. Clouds covered the moon. Jack lit a few candles inside the cabin. The radio came on again by itself. This time it played a strange sound, like a mix of voices and static. Lyra walked over and turned it off. "They were close," she said. Jack felt cold. "Are they watching us?" "Yes." "What will they do?" "They wait for my report. They will not act until I speak." Jack realized how serious this was. Lyra was not just a traveler. She was a scout, a judge. Her words could decide what happened next between her people and Earth. He stood and faced her. "Then what do you think of us? Are we worth trusting?" Lyra looked at him with eyes that changed from green to silver. "You are not perfect. Your kind is often cruel, careless, and slow to change. But you also have hope. You love, you dream, and you fight for what you care about. That is rare." Jack didn't speak. He felt a strange pride and fear at the same time. Lyra walked outside. Jack followed her. The sky had cleared and the stars were bright again. She held the small device in her hand. "It is time," she said. "To send the message?" She nodded. She pressed a button. A soft light rose from the device, and the air around them shimmered. Jack stepped back. A large shape appeared in the sky, silent and still. It was not solid, more like a shadow or a window to another place. Inside the shape, Jack saw 3 figures. They were tall, with smooth faces and glowing eyes. They looked at Lyra. A voice spoke not aloud but inside Jack's head. "Report." Lyra stood straight. "I am still learning, but I have found something important. This world is dangerous, yes, but it is not hopeless. I believe it should be watched more closely, not judged too quickly." The voice responded, "You may continue. We will wait." The light faded. The shape vanished. Jack stood in silence. Lyra turned to him. They listened. "That is rare." He nodded. "What now?" "Now we wait. We watch. We learn." Jack knew nothing would be the same again. The next few days felt heavy with silence. Jack could feel the weight of what had just happened. He had seen something in the sky that most people would never believe. The shape, the voices, the message, it was all real. He could still hear the words in his mind. Lyra stayed close to the cabin. She spent time walking through the woods, listening to birds, watching insects, and learning how humans lived with nature. She took notes in a small book Jack had given her. Her eyes still changed color with light, and her presence made the air feel different. One evening, Jack found her near the river. She sat on a rock, staring at the water. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. She looked up. "Back home, rivers do not move like this. They are still and wide. This one is full of sound. I like it." Jack smiled. "You're starting to sound human." She shook her head. "I can never be fully human, but I am learning to understand you." That night, Jack showed Lyra how to make a fire with wood and matches. She watched closely, asking questions about heat, smoke, and flame. They sat by the fire in silence for a long time. Suddenly, the device Lyra had used to contact her people lit up. A soft blue glow pulsed from it. She picked it up and stared at it. "They are sending a new message," she said. Jack stood. "Is it bad?" "I do not know yet." She pressed a small button. A voice filled the air around them. It was smooth and calm, but full of power. "Your report has caused concern. A vote was taken. The result is not in your favor. Return now." Jack felt his stomach drop. "They want to take you?" Lyra nodded. They believe I have become too close. They do not trust my judgment. What happens if you don't go? They will send someone else, someone less patient, someone who sees Earth as a threat. Jack stepped closer. You said they listened. What changed? Some of them fear what they do not understand. They think feelings are weakness. Jack looked at her. What will you do? Need to show them that human emotion is not weakness, it is strength. But I must prove it. She walked inside and began gathering broken parts from her small craft. Jack helped her. Together they worked through the night, building a larger device with wires, glass, and metal pieces. What is it? He asked. A memory sender. It will show them what I have seen, not just images, but emotions, my experience. When the machine was ready, Lyra stood in the center of the room. Jack stood beside her. She activated the device. A light filled the cabin. For a moment, the air shimmered. Then a new shape appeared in the center of the room. A floating screen showed pictures and sounds. Jack saw images of forests, rivers, stars, and people. He saw himself and Lyra walking, talking, laughing. He heard music, voices, rain, but more than that, he felt the emotions. Peace, curiosity, sadness, joy. Then the voice returned. You are changing the method. This is not standard. Lyra stood tall. It is needed. You judge without knowing the feeling. This is the only way. There was silence. Then the voice spoke again. Wait for further notice. Do not leave. Do not act. We will decide. The light faded. The screen disappeared. Jack sat down. So now we wait again. Lyra nodded. Yes. But now they have more than words. Now they have truth. That night, the cabin felt warmer. Not from the fire, but from hope. Jack looked at Lyra and saw someone who was no longer just a visitor. She was becoming part of his world. Outside, the forest was calm. The stars were clear above them. They did not speak much, but the silence was full of meaning. Something had changed. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The days that followed were quiet. Jack and Lyra waited, not knowing what would happen next. The device she had built remained silent. No lights, no voices, nothing. It sat on the table like a rock, holding the future inside it. Lyra continued to observe. She followed Jack into the forest, watched animals in their natural homes, and listened to sounds she had never heard before. She wrote more notes, but now her pages were filled with feelings, not just facts. She described kindness, fear, laughter, and loneliness. One morning, as the fog lifted from the trees, the device came to life again. Soft blue light glowed, and the same calm voice filled the room. We have reviewed the memory. Your request has been accepted. You may remain. But you are no longer a scout. You are now an observer. You will not interfere. Jack looked at Lyra. What does that mean? It means they will not send others. For now, Earth is safe. But I must stay here and watch. Cannot return. Jack waited. And are you okay with that? She gave a small nod. Yes, I chose this. With her role changed, Lyra began to settle into life on Earth. She helped Jack with his work. She learned how to use a camera, how to set traps for wildlife photos, and how to store food for winter. She asked fewer questions now and gave more answers. She was no longer a stranger. She was part of Jack's world. They fixed the cabin together. They repaired the broken steps, cleaned the roof, and even built a small greenhouse to grow herbs and vegetables. The days were busy, but they felt good. One evening, Jack stood by the river while Lyra skipped stones across the water. The sun was setting, and the sky was full of colors. Do you miss your world? He asked. Lyra watched the water. Yes, but I feel closer to something real here. Not perfect, but real. Jack nodded. That's how I feel too. As the seasons changed, the bond between them grew stronger. They laughed more, shared meals, and talked late into the night. Lyra told him stories about her people, about the stars, and about the way time felt in space. Jack shared stories of his childhood, of cities, of noise and crowds, and all the things he had left behind. They were different, but not as different as Jack had first thought. One night, Lyra stood on the porch, looking at the stars. Jack joined her. They're still watching, aren't they? He asked. Yes, but now they are waiting. They want to see what I see. And I see hope. Jack smiled. Then maybe that's enough. Lyra turned to him. You have helped me more than you know. You've helped me too, Jack said. Before you came, I had no reason to look up. Now I do. The cabin became a special place. It's not just a home, but a link between two worlds. It held memories of silence and storms, of stars and shadows, and of two beings who found meaning in each other's presence. Jack never told anyone about Lyra. He kept her secret, not out of fear, but out of respect. Some truths were too big for words. As time passed, they built a life that was quiet but full. Didn't need much. A roof, a fire, the woods, and each other. One winter night, while snow fell softly outside, Jack gave Lyra a gift. It was a photo of the first day they met. She looked at it and smiled. That was not an accident, she said. No, Jack replied. It never was. And in that quiet cabin, deep in the forest, with stars above, and snow all around, they continued their journey, not as scout and subject, not as alien and human, but as something new, something chosen, something shared.